Dr. Newport, you wrote a book titled Alzheimer's Disease. What if there was a cure? Now, in that book, you chronicle your husband's battle with the disease. What were some of the first warning signs that you saw that something out of the ordinary was up?
Well, very early on, Steve had a problem with remembering appointments, taking our daughters to appointments. I would call him up a half hour ahead of time to remind him, and he would forget. You know, that kind of thing would happen. But I just thought it was, you know, just that he was distracted or something. But right around age 51, he began to have a little bit more problem with doing his accounting work, for example. He would make significant payroll mistakes, and I had to start sitting down with him to do the payroll, which had not happened the previous 20 years. And then I knew something was really up when he told me that he couldn't remember if he'd been to the bank and the post office on a given day. That just seemed clearly not normal to me. You know, I couldn't imagine that I wouldn't remember that. And that was something that he did every day as part of his job as an accountant. He was working for me at home, you know, doing that for many years.
So what did you learn about the common prescription drugs as you started to do some research into helping him? And what about those drugs that were available, and what were some of the pros and cons of some of the early treatments?
Yeah, well, there really wasn't much available. Right around 2005, Steve was officially diagnosed as most likely having Alzheimer's disease. He had progressed to the point where he couldn't read a map anymore. He had trouble finding his way around in a car. We had moved about an hour north of where we lived, and he couldn't really learn the layout, and it was a very small town. And he would spend an inordinate number of hours, you know, in the garage looking for something. And then at the end of the day, he couldn't remember what he was looking for. So those kind of problems were happening. And we took him to a neurologist. He had an MRI, which was actually normal at that point. He had lab work to rule out other causes of Alzheimer's, other causes of dementia. And the neurologist felt that he was seeing progression and felt that it was time to put him on one of the medications for Alzheimer's. And so he put him on Aricept. And what Aricept does is it helps make more acetylcholine, one of the neurotransmitters, available in the brain. But the studies for that particular medication show that it helps about half the people and only for about 6 months. And my understanding, it actually wasn't studied much beyond 6 months. So, you know, I think it's still not really well known what the long-term effects of these particular medications are, both positive and negative. So he did go on Aricept at that point in 2005. And then about a year later, he had an evaluation at the Bird Alzheimer's Center in St. Petersburg, Florida, and they agreed that he most likely had Alzheimer's. And Namenda was another drug. Memantine is the generic name of it. And this one helps another neurotransmitter be more available, you know, and they work a little bit in synergy together, the Aricept and Namenda. But he said, you know, the physician said not to really expect great things from this, that it might help slow down the course of the disease. You know, we couldn't really expect much improvement, and we really didn't see much difference in Steve after either of these medications.